Hey, everybody, and welcome to this bonus episode of the GrowLeader podcast. As always, before we get started, we want to say a huge thank you to the generous partners who help make the GrowLeader podcast happen each and every month. Remember, we don't have sponsors. We have partners because we believe that you would benefit from knowing these partners as well. The first is Compassion International. Compassion International has been working to serve the world's most vulnerable children in the name of Jesus for over 70 years. They've helped over 2.2 million children, and they reach and serve every child and family through the power of the local church. To learn more about Compassion International, you can visit them at compassion.com. We also want to say thank you to Great American Family. Great American Family is America's premier TV destination for high-quality family programming, and we're so grateful to have them as a part of the GrowLeader family. You can learn more about them at greatamericanfamily.com. And finally, we want to say a big thank you to the Wesleyan Investment Foundation. For over 80 years, WIF has been helping churches and church planners with their borrowing and investing needs. Maybe you're a pastor dreaming about how you're going to grow your ministry this year, or you're thinking about how you can invest the resources God's always given you. We really believe that WIF can help you, and you can learn more about them at wifonline.com. Now let's get started with the podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the GrowLeader podcast, where we grow leaders that grow churches by helping them reach their full potential. We're so glad that you're here today. My name is Matt, and sitting with me, as always, is the author of Pray First.
Yeah, how about that?
Which we're super excited about. It's doing really, really well.
The book has done very well, Matt. Thank you.
Pastor Chris Hodges, how you doing, PC?
I'm really well. I'm extremely well today because I have a dear friend that I can't wait to introduce to everyone. But welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're here. We are in the beautiful podcast studio of Highlands College, and I'll tell you, things are happening here at the college as well. And we have a friend here that I have been learning from, and I've been talking about. And if you've been around Church of the Highlands, or if you were at last year's Impact Conference, you probably remember our guest speaker who's with us today. He's the president of High Point University, and he's become a dear, dear friend. Welcome to our podcast, all the audience. Welcome, Dr. Nido Qubein. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Pastor Chris. It's a delight for me. It's a privilege to be here. And when you say this beautiful broadcast studio, let me tell you, every square foot of this college is gorgeous.
Thank you.
One can see lots of places across America. Nothing is more innovative, more creative, more on target, more on mission than this school. This school is going to change America and the world in a very positive way, and to the glory of God, it is a vehicle and a vessel of the most outstanding standards of excellence.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me because you've built one of the greatest universities I have ever seen in my life, and you've become a mentor to me, and we actually have a formal relationship too, where you're actually advising and consulting us here at Highlands College and how to build a great university. And I want you to tell them about High Point, but why don't you orient in a few minutes, because I have so much leadership I want to pull out of you in this very short time together. But let them know who you are. Tell them the story. Of course, you're an immigrant from Syria,
Jordan and Lebanon, yes.
Syria and that area, and born in Bethlehem. And here you are, now the president of a college. Talk to us about your story.
Well, God works in miraculous ways. You know, He breathed in our nostrils and gave us a purpose and a plan for our life. And my life has been an interesting story, to say the least. And I am a believer through and through, and God has just blessed me. I'm blessed and highly favored. Every day I acknowledge that, recognize that. I came to America as a 17-year-old kid and landed in a small town in eastern North Carolina, went to college, undergrad and grad, and then began my first business with $500 I had saved. I actually began in the church when I was in college. I was working as a youth minister, youth director in a church, and my very first book was written a couple of years after I graduated from college about youth ministry, how it works, and what are some of the ideas that make it really effective, if you will. So, you know, I started my first business, a second business, but God has a plan you can't argue with sometimes. And in my mid-50s, my alma mater, High Point, now High Point University, then High Point College, was going to have me as chairman of the board of trustees. And then they said, we need you as president. Our school is having some challenges, some difficulties. Would you please come and preside over the school? I took 90 days to pray about it and see if that's really what I need to be doing. And in the end, I showed up. And on day one, I said we're going to be a God, family, and country school. And God just blessed us. We're on God's side. And amazing things happen when you're on God's side. And so I'm in my 19th year at High Point University. And the road has been paved so well, and the pathways have been lit so well. And I'm grateful to God every day that He has used me in this way. We've graduated thousands of students, and we continue to do that in wonderful ways. And along the pathway of life, I get to meet people like you who enrich my life and who bring me a different perspective in many ways. What you have done at the Church of the Highlands, and how you're helping so many churches across America, and how you've attracted so many fabulous families or donors to your school and members of your church is a story to be told. And it can only be explained that God has just picked you out of the masses to say, this is your work. Go get it done.
You know, when I first met you and I heard the story of transformation that has taken place in the 18 years, going on 19 now that you've been at High Point, my first thought was, I wish every one of the Grow pastors that I have the opportunity of mentoring and bringing into conferences, because they come to learn how to grow their churches. They want leadership skills. They want trade secrets. And immediately you were telling me about the transformation. I want you to just give them a brief overview of the what's happened over these past 18 years, and the acres that have been acquired, and the buildings that have been built, and the students. But it all became from some business models and principles that you gave me immediately. And honestly, I thought first off, Matt, about our GrowLeader family, that, man, these are the principles that don't just work in colleges, universities, and businesses, but they work in churches as well. Kind of give them the overview of what you've seen happen, and then what principles brought it to pass.
You're exactly on target. I mean, it's the same fundamentals and principles can work in any organization. A church is an organization of people who come to worship and to minister and to be disciples. And so what we've done at High Point University, we went from 91 acres, we were landlocked, to 550 acres today. We went from 1,400 students to 6,000. And frankly, our net assets have grown as net assets should. You can't do it without resources. Human resources, financial resources, people are willing to engage in the process and make it work. And what we've done at High Point really are four basic things. What we did, number one, is we created value. Value has to be appreciated value, otherwise it doesn't matter. So we must meet the needs, overcome the fears, help achieve the aspirations of the people whom we choose to serve. And I understood that from business, that if you don't do that, people are not willing to exchange their legal tender for whatever it is that you sell. And so we've created value. The value meant we are going to be the premier life skills university. You're not going to just learn inside the classroom. You're going to be prepared for life. When you graduate from this institution, you're going to be able to go and do something worthwhile with what you've learned. And then the second thing we did is we interpreted the value. So we took the value that we had and made sure that we explained it in ways that people can acknowledge it's useful in their own lives. So much of the time, people will render value, but they stand short, stop short of explaining it in a way the other person acknowledges and understands it. Almost like a doctor saying to you, take this medication and that will take the pain away. But if the doctor will explain to you the value of the pain being gone, the value that you can do more things, that you can have more energy, you will appreciate that even more. The third thing that we did is we removed all the irritants. Whatever irritates people. Now, we did that responsibly, of course. If you ask students, they say, we don't want to write papers, we don't want to take exams, we don't want to go to class. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the things that irritate parents. And we removed all the irritants. And then finally, we added wow to the experience. When I come to Highlands College, I see wow at every corner. When I attend the chapel service at Highlands College, I feel it. I don't just see it, don't just observe it, but I feel it viscerally. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some frivolous, silly thing. I'm talking about that lasting, sustainable, sometimes emotional, but spiritual, that lives within you. And so that's what we try to do. And when you put all those four things together and you assemble a team that believes in it and delivers on it every day, with God's grace and God's mercy and God's leading the way, unbelievable things come to be.
I love those principles, and we came right home Matt, and started talking about, what is the value? Think about this, all you guys that are listening in this podcast. What value are we adding? Why come to church? Why get involved in small groups? What values to add there? And then how are you interpreting it? Do you even know it? And one of the most incredible things when I go to High Point University is to see that literally your eye cannot go in any direction without receiving some kind of messaging and telling us what this is, why this is there, why it's important, how this can add value to your life. Just the over communication that actually brings the right amount of communication, because you don't let someone interpret it themselves. And then I was thinking about removing all the irritants. My goodness, you guys that are listening to this podcast that are on church teams, you ought to have a day of meetings just to discuss what those irritants are, the things that we're doing to make the faith experience or the journey toward all that God has for us difficult, and let's get them out of the system. And then, we've been talking about the wow factor forever. Just we want people everywhere to turn their head in any direction, and not just visually, but also in their experience of faith. When they experience what we have to offer in our churches, when they walk out of the doors, there should be this wow. And I think it's. You guys are going to hear a lesson that are watching this or listening to this podcast. You're going to hear a lesson developed out of these brilliant principles from Dr. Qubein.
So, Pastor Chris, what happens is this. We assume that people understand and readily acknowledge the value. We assume it because we know it, and we assume everybody sees it. That's not always the case. We must interpret it. As far as wows and unwows, I would suggest everyone listening to us today that they take a little test and say, what are the 3 wows that my church delivers every week to all those who are involved in our fellowship? But of equal importance, let's list 3 unwows that consciously or subconsciously, directly, indirectly, emerge from the experience with us. And then commit ourselves to get rid of the unwows and to enhance and increase the wows. I'd like to come up with either the wow, make it an acronym of something. I haven't come up with something brilliant, but maybe you can, and more than likely the two of you will. But the word wow sometimes sounds a little, silly or sort of remedial. But when you think about it, you see people all the time. Today at lunch right here at Highlands College, one of your major donors said, when I come here, I go, wow, 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 wow. It is part of our vocabulary. And if we get people saying that, if I leave a church on a Sunday morning or Wednesday night, and I say to my wife, wow, that touched my heart. That message spoke to me. That's a wow. That's a wow that stays with you the balance of the week. That's a wow that influences and impacts how you think, how you behave, what you do, and how you serve.
I think one of the most difficult, as we've tried to work out these 4 principles for us, has been we know what our value is. We know what the irritants are, and I think we're fairly good at the wow experience. I think we struggle, and I think most pastors and churches struggle with defining the value. I want you to talk about how you've done that at High Point and maybe how we could do that in our churches.
So the first question is, why would someone accept what we offer, whatever that is, right? If you're selling a product, you would say, why would someone do business with me? It's a positioning question. Why would someone else do business with me? Given choices, why? If I were a full-time minister in a church, I'd be saying, why would they come to our church? If there are other churches in the community, if there's something on television, why wouldn't they just stay home and watch it? Why would they come to our church? What is that reason that would be compelling for them to come and be with the brothers and sisters who are worshiping Jesus Christ on that day? So the way you determine what the value is based on people's fears, needs, goals, and aspirations. We're all humans. We all share these 4 things. We have fears about certain things, fear about the unknown. That's where faith comes in. And we're disappointed sometimes. Sometimes some people get discouraged. That's a lack of faith. We shouldn't get discouraged. If we believe in God Almighty, we should always feel encouraged that God will help us, give us the strength, the wisdom to deal with it. But most of us don't ask that question.
Right.
Most of us don't sit there and say, what is the value that we offer? Because we think, my goodness, you should know coming to church I don't have to interpret to you the value of coming to church. And here's the point that we miss, that we live in a competitive world. In fact, the New York Times says that the average American gets more than 5,000 invitations to buy every single week.
Wow.
Imagine if you go on an airport, you see 100 commercials. If you pick up a magazine, you're seeing all these advertisements. What makes us in the Christian church believe that everybody just thinks about our church and our service? The truth is there's so much else competing for those times and that interest. And I think the churches that are growing, Church of the Highlands, second largest church in all of the land, has done all the right things to make sure that you deliver the right message in the right way, and that people acknowledge and understand what it is. I heard today one of your donors say that he and his wife literally, not figuratively, he wasn't trying to be nice to you. He said, literally, we moved from Florida to Birmingham so that we can attend the Church of the Highlands. Now, wouldn't it be incredible to sit with this gentleman and his wife and say, tell me why? What is it? Once we understand what that is, any church we're speaking to, leader today, then you begin to multiply it, do more of it, assuming it's responsible and it's in keeping with your faith and your values. And I don't think we do a good job at that. Our job is to create capacity in others.
Right.
That's what our job is, create capacity in others. We create spiritually, just like a business creates it in terms of producing more widgets or producing more returns for their shareholders. And how do you create capacity in others to accept spirituality and to apply it every day of our lives and make church Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? That's the key. You do it in incredible ways. You're really a case study. You know, if Harvard University had the depth of faith I wish it would have, they'd be over here studying you and what you're doing, and it'll be a case study for all to learn. But maybe you can write that book, a case study to analyze these points and see how they apply to everybody.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, you're adding so much value to us. And even listening to you answer this question and watching you've been here half a day today and spoke to our students, and we had lunch with some of our donors. And I'm just watching the energy that's inside of you and the passion that's inside of you. I know your daily schedule. I know how early you rise. I know how hard you work. What drives you? What talk to us about the inner soul. And I think there's something that could be imparted into some of our listeners, just about what drives you, what motivates you to work and to live the kind of life you live and to make a masterpiece of every day. Come on, teach us the Nido way here on just what's going on inside of you right now.
Well, Chancellor Chris Hodges, you know the answer to that better than I. You've written books about this. You've taught and mentored literally thousands of people. I think most of us don't make the distinction between time management and energy management. Energy is a byproduct.
That's great. It's
not a vitamin that you take. It's a byproduct of the fulfillment of your passion. What drives you is that which you believe is important to do. It's God's calling on your life, that this is important. And what drives you is seeing the results. In the church, you see people coming to Christ, and that just adds so much passion to you to do more work on the next day and the next day and the next day. And for me, you know, I've been through cycles. You know, I've defined success in all kinds of secular ways, as our society would show us. You know, if you ask an entrepreneur, how do you define success? He or she would say, well, it's making a lot of money. That's obvious. You build more businesses and so on. If you ask Ted Turner, how do you define success? He'll say it's building a media empire like CNN. If you ask Hank Aaron, he would say it's beating the record of Babe Ruth. You know, if you ask Albert Einstein, he'd say it's unraveling the secrets of the universe. But if you could have asked Mother Teresa would have said it's feeding the hungry and clothing the poor. And that's a remarkable definition of success. That you ask 5 people, you get 5 different explanations. The truth is, energy does not come from success. That's a temporary level of energy. Energy does not come from the passion of pure success, because success comes and goes. Success is relative. Energy comes from significance. When we know that we are a vessel that creates that which is significant. So for me, success is secular. Significance is spiritual. Success is about giving back. Significance is about giving, just giving. You don't give to the church because you were blessed last week. You just give out of the goodness of your heart because you believe that that's the right thing to do. You know, when you think about success, you're talking about making good time. How can I manage my time and do all this? Significance is talking about how do you make time good? How do you make it worthwhile that you lived at all? How do you ensure that everybody who crosses your path somehow becomes better, improved because they've come to know you. They've read something you've written. You've heard something you've preached. And so for me, energy is not something I do. I don't take the, whatever that little bottle is, 5 something or
5
other.
hour energy.
Yeah, I don't do that at all.
They are not a partner, but we'll talk though.
Thank goodness for that. So that's not what turns me on. What turns me on is that God breathed in my nostrils and gave me life.
That's great.
And then gave me the wisdom and the energy and the leaning and the desire to do something with it that's worthwhile. And if you can multiply that somehow, it becomes so much better. Everybody talks about artificial intelligence, right? AI is going to change the world. Well, maybe so. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. I am very sure about this. There may be artificial intelligence. There's no such thing as artificial wisdom. Wisdom can never be artificial. It is authentic. It comes out of your visceral. It resides in your heart. It is multiplied in your soul, and therefore your behavior, your thoughts, your activities are energized because you're doing important work. And that's what turns me on so much about Highlands College, about the Church of the Highlands, about your work, that you've taken it beyond the walls of the church.
That's great.
And you've reached out to so many other ministers and so many other leaders in the church at large. And that's what we need. And that's what God wants us to do, is to multiply our talents, our skills in innovative ways to help as many people as we can.
So talk to me about some of the values, the guardrails, the principles that guide your day, that I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Because I know you as a man of principle. I know you as a man of order, a person who gets, again, a lot done. Honestly, more than most, if I'm very honest with you, and I honor you. I've never seen anyone as passionate and as gifted and do things with such excellence. But I mean, you get a lot done too. You talked about today in the chapel service how you even allow every student time to come to sit in your office.
Yeah, I do.
So that's 6,000 students. Okay, how what is in place? Sir, what is in place that allows you to be that high capacity? Because you couldn't just let that go. Next thing you know, your life would be in a million different directions. Teach us how you've built a life that can have that much done and have that much order, and just talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, on the spiritual level, I'm just a grateful person. I thank God every day for the blessings that have come my way. I'm blessed and highly favored. I know it, I feel it, I live it, I understand it. So the moment I lose sight of that, I've lost it all. The moment I think my humanness is great, or somehow I have a capacity that is entirely mine, and I'm a fool at best. I need the presence of God in my life every day. I understand. That's why I read the Bible every day. That's why I study every day. On the mechanical side, God gives us wisdom. We pray for strength. As I tell our students, don't pray to God, help me pass the chemistry test. Say, God, please give me the wisdom. Please, God, give me the energy. Please, God, guide me in the right way so that I can study for the chemistry test so I can deliver on it. And for me, I have learned some systems, if you will. And one of those systems is about energy management. So I take an hour, divide it into 12 units. So I think in terms of 5-minute units. So if someone says, can I have an hour of your time? That's just not very possible. But I'll give you 2 units of my time. And 2 units of my time, I can do 6 people in a 1 hour. And I can help a lot of people. You are right that I make myself available. I take phone calls, I meet with people. And the day that I am bigger than and can't do that is the day I will fail, and I will not be following what God would have me do. But there are techniques for that. I get up, I'm early to bed, early to rise. I eat a good breakfast. I try to walk every day for an hour. I take quiet time every morning. I study for almost 2 hours every morning. And then I have quiet time where I just sit there and think about the blessings in my life. and occasionally think about the challenges of our life and how we're gonna deal with them. And we all have challenges, and we all have blessings, and I understand that energy begets energy. So I make sure I hang around people like you who are high energy, motivated, inspired, believe in the art of the possible, and not the people who are constantly whining and complaining and telling me why something can be done and sucking the very life out of you, the very oxygen out of you. So I think these are the simple techniques. Emails, I tell people, write me emails 6 lines or less, no more. My own team, when they write me emails, put 1 point in the email, no more, so I can answer you with yes, no. Let's talk next week. So I've done things that sort of, make us use time and preserve energy. My desk is clear every night when I go to home. And the reason it is because I say everybody returns every call and every text by sunset. We make this a rule at High Point. It's called the sunset rule. Return every call and every message by sunset. Now, sometimes you need a little homework on that and it takes longer time. But there are a whole host of techniques that one uses to understand that energy is the driver of it all. And passion is not a gift given to some and not given to others. Passion is a byproduct of having values clarification, who you are, and what are you supposed to do in this world, and do it with fervor, and do it with enthusiasm, and do it with commitment.
So good. I'm so grateful for John Maxwell, who introduced us, and you guys are fellow Horatio Alger Society members, and John was the one that said, man, I have a friend who's going to help you with your college more than anybody you'll ever meet, and boy, he hyped you up really big, and it was every bit true. And I'm so grateful you're involved in consulting and coaching us here at Highlands College. What do you see here? What do you see, and what do you think our potential is here? And why did you say yes to get involved with us here at this college?
First of all, the mission of this college, the values, the vision, second to none. I mean, you have clearly defined what the purpose of this college is, and you have, with all the power you have and all the power God can give you, you have committed yourself to it. You make a decision with your brain, you make a commitment with your heart. You have emotionally and spiritually committed that these young people and adults who come through the hallowed hallways of this institution to learn will exit to serve and do it with character and integrity and faith and courage. So I said yes because you are the best students I've ever met. I have consulted with people for more than 40 years now. Most people listen to what you tell them and measure it against what they know or what they've done. You, on the other hand, listen to what you receive, and at face value, you just let it sit there and you say, well, maybe that would work for us. Maybe that is a good idea. Now, I'm smart enough to know you probably don't do everything you're told, but at the beginning, you don't prejudge. That is a gift of leadership that is of the highest order. The bigger a leader is, the more they prejudge, the more they listen and immediately prejudge, good, bad, we can do it, we can't do it. You don't do that. And that's why my prediction is that Highlands College is going to be the finest in the nation. When someone visits, anybody listening to us who has not visited this place doesn't understand what we're talking about. This place emanates from a faithful courage perspective. And this school is going to be amazing. I mean, I saw your students today, filled with hope and faith and praise and authenticity. And that's the key. As big as you are, Pastor Chris, known all over the world for your work and what you do and the authoring of all the books and attracting people like Matthew and others on your team, the best of the best, you're one of the most humble people I've ever met. You're authentic. Authenticity above charisma any day of the week. That's what I see. And I know that God is going to bless you in ways that are amazing, not only on this campus, not only on your multiple campuses for your church, but on all the campuses and all the churches and all the circles of influence where you are preaching and teaching and consulting and mentoring. And that's the greatest thing I think could be told about any one of us, the impact and influence that we bring forth.
Thank you. We have another minute or two. Finally, what do you see? You work with college students like I do. What are you seeing in this generation? What is your hope? What do you see in the eyes of these young people, and where are we as a nation?
It's a two-edged sword, you know. On the one side, I'm very sad. On the one side, I'm very worried. I pray that God takes my worry away on merit and by design. I don't think our country is going in the right direction. I think that there's a lot that's influencing these young people in a negative way. And I don't believe that builds character. I don't believe that builds initiative. I don't think that it builds leadership. On the other hand, I'm encouraged and pleased to see a place like Highlands College that says, in spite of all that is happening out there, we will do what we can every day, and we'll do it bountifully so, to impact and influence these young people in a positive way. And the hundreds I saw today, I could see it. I could see it in the sparkle of their eyes. I could see it in the cheerfulness of their heart. I could see that you are doing it. And the question is, how can we grow Highlands College? How can you influence more places to do this? We can win this battle. We can win this battle.
Good.
God is not going to let this world just, go crazy on us. But in the interim, as leaders, we're all challenged, and we have to have faithful courage to pursue our goals in a way that hopefully gives harvest, good harvest.
We've got to get you back on this podcast. You're just a wealth of information, and every bit of it is just, you're dripping with gold. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt.
Dr. Qubein, thank you so much. Just such a treat. It's a good podcast when the guys on it want to go back and listen and take notes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a good podcast. Hey, we're so grateful you were with us today. If you found this helpful, if it helped you, do us a favor, share it, like it, help us get the word out about the Grow Leader podcast. Be sure and check out GrowLeader.com. A lot of, we're excited about being in some cities coming up very soon.
A lot of regionals coming up around the nation.
A lot of regionals coming up, and you can find all things about Grow Leader there on the site. We'll see you next time on the Grow Leader podcast.